play fantasy in 15, and boy, do we got some news. Ian Rappaport set the fantasy world on fire today when he tweeted that Michael Thomas is expected to miss the start of the 2021 season after undergoing surgery to repair the ligaments in his ankle in June. Now, based on the timing of the surgery and recommended 4 months of recovery, Thomas is expected to miss the beginning of the season and could miss a good chunk of it. And for those that aren't familiar, this is the injury, a continuation of what Thomas received last year, week 1, when he got his ankle rolled up and had a high ankle sprain. So something that he hasn't really fully recovered from, obviously. And there's fantasy implications, as some people have already drafted. And now the kind of elephant in the room is, what does this mean for the Saints offense? So I welcome in my co-host, Kevin. What's going on?
I'm hurting right now. I have a roster with Akers and Michael Thomas on it. So it's not been a very good week for me, personally and fantasy-wise.
Is that a redraft or a dynasty roster?
No, that's a dynasty roster.
Oh, damn. You are not competing this year.
It is tough. I was competing this year, and then this hit. So I'm hurting. Michael Thomas has been a pain for me the last 2 years since I drafted him.
It's crazy that this season, we're not even in preseason and you're waving the white flag. And,
I'm not waving the white flag. I'm not done yet.
Okay. I like the optimism. Well, as a Michael Thomas owner last year myself, this is a guy that had never missed a game. And now it seems like his availability and whether he'll be the record-setting Michael Thomas from 2019 is now in question. But we're here to break down what it means for the rest of the Saints offense because, look, this is a completely new team than what we saw week 1 last year. New quarterback, new set of wide receivers. So let's dive in and let's talk about the implications it has for, first, Alvin Kamara. So, Kevin, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I thought it would be good. We're going to take a look at, what Alvin Kamara's stats were when Michael Thomas wasn't there on the field last season. So Kamara averaged 7.9 receptions on 9.1 targets for 73.4 receiving yards per game. So he was absolute monster. And you see his rushing too. So he had 84 attempts, 455 yards, 4 touchdowns. Then you see the targets there, 64 targets, 55 receptions. Like, he was a monster. He was one of the best football players in NFL during that stretch when Michael Thomas wasn't there. And I think that you're going to have the opinion, so I don't want to give your opinion away. I think it does do okay for him, but I think the real question mark that we have to answer for everything out there is Hill or is Jameis going to be the starter? So I think that's the biggest thing for me. Like, if Jameis is the starter, I'm okay with Kamara. If Hill is the starter, I'm really worried. But I don't know what the hell to think of that situation.
Well, let me ask you, with this injury news and probably an increased production in Alvin Kamara's workload, is he going up your rankings? Is he staying the same or is he going down?
He's probably staying the same. Like, in PPR formats, I still probably would put him at like running back 3 or 4 in redraft, somewhere around there. Probably 4 still, like, just because of the uncertainty with the quarterback situation. He's not going up. I've been seeing that. Like, I've been seeing that. I'm not putting him up yet because there's just too much uncertainty for me with making that pick that high.
So I feel like this is the contrarian thing to say, but I actually am having him go down my rankings. Now, I look at the targets he had last year when Michael Thomas didn't play, and it's 9, 14, 4, 10, 8, 13, 6, and 5. Now, keep in mind, this was a mix of Drew Brees throwing him the ball and Taysom Hill. We don't know if it's going to be Taysom Hill or if it's going to be Jameis Winston. So that's kind of the first factor. But I'm scared of what the Saints offense is going to look like outside of him. Latavius Murray is another year older at 31. He'll probably get, 100 or so carries, maybe between 8 to 12 a game to provide some relief for Kamara. But he's now the focal point of that offense. And I think defenses are going to take him away. They'll stack 8 in the box. Maybe they'll have a linebacker spy if he goes out for a receiving route. Because who are you going to let beat you? Traequan Smith, Marquez Callaway, Adam Troutman. Now, the Saints could make a trade. I don't think that they really have the capital to, nor do they have the salary cap with all of the deals that they've done this offseason. But yes, the volume will be there, but I think with volume and what we saw last year, it leads to a greater chance of injury. And for especially a 17-game season, I'm not as confident drafting Kamara. Figure game script as well. If the Saints are behind, that he might not have as many rushing attempts, and it might just be more passing opportunities. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go to him, though. But Kevin, what do you think this means for some of the pass catchers on the Saints?
Yeah, no, to your point about Kamara, I think that's a very solid point. I think that when you're looking at who's going around him, you might for example, do you want Dalvin Cook or Kamara?
Gosh, I'm low on Dalvin Cook, but I'm going to take him over Kamara at this point.
Yeah, I mean, just because the volume's going to be there, right? And I think that they fixed that offensive line in the Minnesota. So I think that I'd rather have the touchdown upside and them taking it. They're probably going to take away from Kamara.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and the thing about, I was going to say, the thing about the Vikings is they have 2 stud receivers on the outside. You know, when it's goal to go that they're going to feed Dalvin Cook at least twice in the red zone. Once again, I'm more worried about the offense game script for the Saints. I just don't see how they're going to be competitive offensively with the roster they have. I could be wrong, but it just seems like a lot of unproven commodities. With a great as a coach as Sean Payton is, it just seems like there's so much unknown, and I can't spend my first round pick confidently on somebody how I don't know how many scoring opportunities he's going to have.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Let's go into the pass catching. You know, Traequan Smith. Everybody likes Traequan Smith. I'm not as high on Traequan Smith as some. You know, we're looking at the weeks when Michael Thomas wasn't there because that's the best perspective that we have. Between week 2 and week 8, he totaled 25 catches on 33 targets for 301 yards. So nothing jumps out there. Now, during this time, Smith saw his snap share sit anywhere between 80 and 90%. So he's going to get on the field. So he's going to get that possibility there. He had 3 touchdowns also. His catch rate was at 75%, which was pretty good. But to your credit, like you pointed out when we were talking, Emmanuel Sanders isn't there anymore. So can Traequan Smith be the wide receiver 1 in this team? How do you feel about that?
So I think of Traequan Smith as a poor man's Deshaun Jackson. We saw in the playoffs, Jameis Winston, the long touchdown he had to him, but he's kind of been a home run threat. I don't think he's that, very accomplished route runner. I do think he's going to have the opportunity there. And the thing about the Traequan Smith, the Deshaun Jacksons, the home run threats is they really need just one long play to really make up their fantasy day. I feel more confident taking him if Jameis Winston is the starter. With Taysom Hill, I think they're going to tailor the offense a little bit more to him, a little more QB draws, short throws, screen passes. So his value for me is really up in the air, and it's tough because a lot of teams are drafting. We've already had the Scott Fishbowl draft. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he's going as wide receiver 78 right now, according to Fantasy Pros' ADP for redraft. And undoubtedly that's going to get shot at. So if you were drafting him, if you're in Dynasty or whatever, and you had him, that's great. What I would say is, if that stuff starts getting shot up past the 50 mark, I'm not touching him. Because then you're looking at guys like LaVisca, Antonio Brown, Marvin Jones, Corey Davis, in that category. I don't think he's there. But to your credit with Smith, he's that deep threat. He's that long. He's that guy. I more look at Smith as being a waiver wire ad, especially in redraft. If you're going to grab him, I'm not going to reach on him depending on how big the rosters are. I like him though, but he's a 3-catch, 80 yards touchdown guy, and then a 0-catch, next game or whatever. And if Hill's the quarterback, I'm staying the hell away from all of these people because I just don't trust him being able to produce real relevant weekly fantasy, relevant players.
So let me ask you, who do you think is the number 1 Saints pass catching option going into 2021?
That's a tough question. It's probably Smith, to be honest, or Troutman. So Adam Troutman's there. I like Callaway, but not as much as other people. If we look at Troutman, last year he didn't do he was whatever. He had 15 passes on 16 targets for 170 yards and a touchdown. I know people are blowing him up, and for good reason, I guess. I mean, Jared Cook last year, he didn't have a great season, but he still got 60 targets, 37 receptions, 500 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So when you look at what Jared Cook did, if you extrapolate that to Troutman, but you're still getting a tight end 18 to 20 in that category? Is that legitimate enough for you to draft him based on where his ADP is going to go? I think he's a trendy topic right now, but I don't necessarily think I want Troutman on my redraft rosters unless he's a late tight end 2 that you're drafting the 22nd round.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we've talked about a couple times in this video is they're going to have a new quarterback. Drew Brees has historically targeted his wide receiver 1 and his tight end a lot, going back to the Jimmy Graham days. And then Jared Cook, he caught 7 touchdowns on 60 catches, which is kind of an unsustainable rate. He had something similar to that the year before. I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints kind of have a run-heavy approach or a kill the clock where they don't have to be in these shootouts and they're more controlling the ball. What are your thoughts on Marquez Callaway? Because it seems like right now, barring trade, he slots into the wide receiver too.
Yeah, he's going to be there, and just looking at the thing that worries me a little bit about him is looking at what he did last year when he was there, when Michael Thomas was out. Callaway totaled 19 catches, 25 targets for 202 yards. So over those 5 games that when Thomas wasn't there, that's what he did. Now, in 4 of those games, he still had a snap share about 70%, but nothing really pops from you. Like, game against Carolina, you saw it there, 8 receptions, 75 yards. Like, that was legit. But after that, nothing really goes there. He didn't score a touchdown. So, we should have seen something better with Breeze being there. So, that's what probably I question the most is, he didn't really do anything with his opportunity. Now, a year later, he's there. I think if Jameis is there, he could be an option because I think Jameis could target him, and he's going to be there. So, again, Callaway might be the guy that I take he's going way later than all this. He'll inevitably get bumped up a little bit, but I think Callaway might be the guy I just take a flyer on and wait because Jameis is going to be that what we saw in the Buccaneers, just throwing it up. He made Rashard Perriman look good. So anything can happen.
What's interesting is talking about these players. Alvin Kamara actually had the most receiving yards last year at 756. Emmanuel Sanders was second at 726. Traequan Smith Jared Cook was third at 504. Traequan Smith was fourth at 448. So they're losing their top 3 pass catchers. Obviously, Kamara is there. I count him as a running back. Kevin, let me ask you to end out this video. Obviously, we don't know the recovery for Michael Thomas. Dynasty value, he probably has none right now because, he'll be turning 29 at the start of the 2022 season, coming off a couple of serious ankle injuries. But if you're in a redraft league and you haven't drafted yet, where would you feel comfortable taking Michael Thomas?
I'm not touching Michael Thomas. I'm not even comfortable with it. He's kind of like OBJ to me. I'm out because that foot injury with his injuries that he's dealt with, he's 28, 29 coming into that season. To me, he's not worthy of drafting because who knows when he's going to come back. Jeff Miller, who we had on the show before, he tweeted out today, he talked about how that could be a 6-month recovery time. So we could be looking at December, depending on how the surgery goes. I mean, if you do that, you're just throwing away a pick. To me, he's not draftable because that's a wasted roster spot. I'm not going to deal with the foot injury, and I trust Jeff and his opinion on injuries, and he basically said just stay away.
Yeah, I feel very similar. I don't know if I wouldn't not draft him at all. If he's there in the last 2 or 3 spots of your draft and you have an IR spot, I would certainly put him there. He's not somebody I would stash for the season, but if you can hold him and, fortunately the injury bug doesn't bite your team, I would take a late round flyer on him because if he does come back, he could be that boost you need for the playoffs. Once again, the NFL season is 17 games this year, which gives him another week to recover. And maybe you could really use him in the playoffs if your team is depleted at wide receivers. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. Are you taking Michael Thomas? What Saints wide receivers, tight ends, running backs are you looking for? And how does this Thomas injury impact their ADP in your eyes?